are silly geese today, but we have a really exciting news. So we have our very first guest, Ashley Eckhoff, joining us today to talk about all things empowerment, all things fitness, all things breaking barriers, and understanding her identity as a woman in this crazy world and in this crazy life. And honestly, we're so excited. Ashley is phenomenal, and I cannot wait for y'all to hear more about it.
Yeah, she's truly an inspirational human. So I've been following Ashley for a couple of years. Ashley's workouts are the only workouts I have consistently stayed with. I think everything else I just kind of like fall off and on. But the only thing like I can consistently do over and over. And the thing that I like, the reason I keep going back is because the way in which she does it, it's like a podcast within a workout.
I think that's really helpful too.
It's so like mentally distracting. And she just like delivers these witty one-liners of like, here is on the way there. And it's like so profound. And I'm just like, every time I walk away from class, I'm like, yeah, here is on the way there. Like, we're there, we're going.
That makes sense though. When you break it down, it does.
Yeah, but it's like, okay, like I'm on the way to the thing. I'm right here in this moment. We're making progress. She has a really amazing background. She was a collegiate runner, had some really big life changes and trajectory changes. And it's amazing to hear how she took those and spun them into like this incredible woman that she is today and didn't let them stop her or be a barrier or let them kind of change her course from greatness.
We're super excited to have her on the podcast today. So
without further ado, here is Ashley Eckhoff. Okay, so we have Ashley with us here today, and we are so freaking excited. This has been like a long time making. So, Brittany, I don't know if you know this. When I first wanted to launch the podcast 2 years ago, I had like started and I reached out to Ashley and said, hey, I want to have a podcast. Would you be a guest?
Wow.
And she was like, absolutely, definitely. Like I'm in. And then I fell off the face of the earth and didn't launch a podcast. And here we are 2 years later. So it's been a long.
Feels like life to me. So
yeah, it's pretty standard. So
exactly.
We know about Ashley. Some of you might be very familiar with her, especially if you follow me on Instagram. I think I'm like in this Ashley cult where I'm constantly like Ashley Eckhoff Fitness. Guys, follow, do your ab workouts, get your workout in. But talk to us a little bit about your journey personally. Like you're sitting here with us today, speaking on fitness, health, well-being, mental health. How did you get here today? Like what brought you here?
I mean, I think I grew up always like within sports, honestly. And so I think from a very young age and like, I was just always like really into working out. Like for me personally, it was an avenue for me. I had like a lot of stuff going on when I was younger. And so, I started running when I was like in high school and then that kind of like took off. But honestly, the only reason I started running in the first place, which is going to sound really ridiculous, was because I was like going after like a specific aesthetic, to be honest. And so that kind of sparked my journey into like really, I don't know. I think that as a young girl and like, a girl in general, like we're so aware of our bodies and also like what, I don't know if it's a society or what we're exposed to from a media perspective. So like, I was always really interested from, okay, like how do I, look like Kendall Jenner or like XYZ, whoever it is. So I think I started running kind of selfishly in that sense to like more go after aesthetics. And then I kind of just happened to be, I did well at it. I ran in college. I went to TCU. I had a full ride and then kind of had a crazy like medical catastrophe at the peak of my career. I had a hyponatremic seizure and was in a coma. And when I woke up from the coma, like everything changed. Like my identity shifted. I could no longer kind of like lean on the fact that like I was running as far as my workout. And so I really had to kind of figure out like, okay, like how do I work it out? Like literally what next? Like this isn't an option for me to like just be, just I shouldn't say regular person, but just someone that wasn't really focused in health and wellness. And so because so much of that is like my mental health is contingent on it. And so I think that really gave me the opportunity to be able to be like, okay, how do I look at this from a different lens? And then, so it kind of just evolved. I was like working in the modeling industry, really focused again, like on that kind of specific like measurement world. But from my background and with like so much of like the eating stuff and like I think the intricacies of, just being a female and like in wellness and all what we're exposed to as far as like so much nutrition information out there, I was like, there's a big part of this whole like measurement or like specific world modeling industry that's like missing like a big part of like the mental health space or like how you're going about getting there. Like, is it sustainable? Is it realistic for your body? Is it something that you're even doing the right, like the right methods to get there and also be able to like maintain that body. And at the same time, I just think it matters like how you speak to yourself that entire process. And like those are the things that like I really think that I focus on, because for me personally, like it just opened up a lot of other avenues in my life. And so I know that's a very like long-winded answer, but I think I've always really been into health and fitness. And then it just kind of, because of necessity of like me needing to find something that I could do that made me feel like I was getting good work on it, that wasn't stressing my body so much, but that still felt in line with like my specific goals. Like that was really where it kind of birthed from. Like I always was just like, I want to know why, I want to know how. And then I think like my favorite thing about what I do is I get to explain to other people like how and why and what are we going to do and like why you should do this, or not even should do this, but like I like to explain things to people so they can have the power to make their own decisions based off of what their goals are, honestly.
Yeah. I notice that a lot in classes. So it'll be like, okay, this is what I recommend, but not what like, this isn't the truth. Like this is my recommendation here. Like, and if it aligns with your goals, then take it and do it. And I think that's really, you don't see that a lot in the fitness space, right? Like people are like, this is the truth. This is how you do it. This is how you should do it. There's one right way. And it's such an inclusive way to work out. And it's so wonderful because it's like your workouts are really crafted for everybody. Like I'm constantly telling everybody, I'm like, hey, like even if you might not be super into fitness, maybe that's not your jam and you just want to get some movement in, it's such a like nice way to kind of dive into it in a way that isn't intimidating or scary or exclusive. And I think a lot can be like that.
Yeah, I definitely think too, to shed light on, you know, like being intimidated. A lot of women going into like a gym, whether it be commercial, you know, owned by two individuals, there's still a sense of intimidation around a gym. I mean, even I've experienced it. And I think, you know, our podcast is all about like women empowerment and how to uplift one another and, you know, feeling comfortable in your own skin and your decisions, like everything, and empowering all of that and everything that comes with it. And so I think a lot of people can resonate, like, you know, everyone wants to be fit. Like that's just a thing. Yeah. But it's like, okay, well, how do I get there and how do I do it and what steps do I need to take? And then when I do get there, what do I do? And so it's intimidating. And then you're like, oh, they're looking at me. They're judging me. And so I feel like actually from what Mandy has told me about your workouts, it's no matter where you're at, you can do them. You can carry them with you. And it's almost as if it's like, you know, a podcast within a workout too, because you're talking, you're chatting, and you feel welcomed and included. And I think that that's what honestly sets you apart from others, is like offering that safe place.
Yeah, totally. I mean, I was the person that felt like they didn't belong, honestly. And like after, you know, I had this medical catastrophe, I was so out of touch with my body. Like, and I think that like, and we all go through these periods where it's like really like hard mental stuff that you're going through, whether it's a breakup or like life just gets in the way, you lose someone. And like, it's so easy to just like lose your body, right? Like you get out of touch with your body. And I think that when you're coming back into this fitness and when you're trying to take care of yourself, the last thing that I want anyone to ever feel is not welcome in that space to be able to do so. Like, and so I think because of my own like experiences where I was the girl that like was so uncomfortable in like a baggy hoodie in the middle of a class. And I felt like I wasn't a model, but like here I'm working for someone that's pushing this. And it made me feel like it was so many hurdles to even barriers to entry. I didn't feel welcome. And that's just my experience, right? Like and I felt ashamed of the fact that I wasn't where I wanted to be, where I thought at my core I should be. And because of that, I really think it kept me in this place of like, it felt like this hill was so high that I had to climb that like, I can't even do it. Like I may have 1 or 2 good days in a row, but like, I'm so far away. And so I think my big like purpose and like what I really want other people to do is like, you know, like you have to have someone that just believes in you a little bit for you to believe in yourself. That's literally where it starts. And like, I think we all just really need someone. And if I can be that person for like, you know, one girl that's struggling or like maybe she's killing it, but like still like there's some specific things that like she's got to work on. Like I want to do that. Like and also from a standpoint of people doing other workouts that aren't mine, like I will be the first person there that's like cheering you on, like every step of the way. Like, and I think like because of that, I've always just been like, I really want to just see people win. And like, if that means they're not doing my stuff, then like, that doesn't mean that I don't want you to win. Like, and I'm always happy for them to do so. And I think that because of that, like people have really like, resonated with me like on a relationship level. And I just feel really lucky because of that community that's been cultivated, because it's really not about like, oh, stream just my class. It's about like, how do I help you be successful in general?
Right. Yeah. That's awesome. And speaking on, the podcast and what we really stand for, you mentioned earlier with your medical catastrophe about like your identity and how you truly feel like you lost your identity. How in this time have you found your identity, and how would you encourage a woman, struggling or being down and seeking for her identity as well?
I think especially like at a pivotal age, right? Like
Exactly.
in college, we're establishing
19.
Yeah, like 19, you're just like, I think every 19-year-old is like, who the heck am I? What am I doing? Like, talk us through that and walk us through that.
Well, I mean, my college years were the worst of my life. I was like so depressed. And I think that one of the things that like I was really forced to like have to be uncomfortable, honestly, with like kind of trying to figure out that excavation site. And I know that like from an identity perspective, like I think one of the things that keeps people in this like that place of like I don't even know who I am is like the things that like we're safe with. Like there's so much comfort in the pain that you knew. There was so much comfort in me like kind of being that like runner but doesn't really understand where I'm at. And as soon as I kind of like, you have to kill your ego off. And I think that's like one of the biggest things about it is like it's completely, I always say to people in classes like if you think you're being buried, like me, if you stream one of my classes, I'm such a cheeseball person when it comes to like lines and stuff. But like to me, like it really matters a lot to me, and they've helped me through a lot of hard times. But like if you think you're being buried, like you're actually being planted, like the breakdown is the thing that leads to the breakthrough. And I think that we live in a society, in a world now where everything is so curated and people are putting out their best images of themselves. So this idea that to be able just to be honest with yourself and be like, I don't know where I'm at, right? Like, I don't know what I want to do with these things. And just to like allow yourself to just completely just like be on that like absolute ground floor. I think as scary as that is, that is really where you can access that intuition, because honestly, I think we all know like when something feels right, like what you're passionate about at your core, what makes you super excited to get up in the morning. And we have like just this fear of being able to not only acknowledge that, but like to embrace it and like to unapologetically chase in that direction, because maybe someone has an opinion about it. Maybe you're giving up your job that pays you, 6 figures a year to like do something. And that's super scary. But I think that ultimately when you do things out of like passion and like you work hard for it, like you're never going to get a bad result. You're never going to feel bad about that, even though like it takes time. But I think that this element of being scared to like kind of unapologetically admit like what really are the things that make us happy and make us want to get up in the morning, getting over that element of fear and just kind of unapologetically embracing that is like really the key to figuring out who yourself was. For me, it was like, I graduated college. I was working as an acquisitions analyst for like this huge REIT. And I remember sitting at my desk, and I was like, I hate this, right? Like it was the first week that I was there, and I was like, I hate this. I got I applied for like this Nike marathon training group that was in New York City. And that was like 2 months prior to that I applied for it. And I'm sitting at my desk as the first official week of the job. And I get this email coming in that's like, I'm accepted to it. I don't live in New York. And I'm like, this is it. Like, right. This is my calling, like quitting my job, moving to New York City, see you, dad. Bye. Like, I don't know. I don't have a job at all. Like I'll work part-time at like Bandier. I'll like sell shoes. I'll go to Nike, whatever. But it was like that type of feeling to me. I'm like, I couldn't dispute the fact that like, I knew intuitively that like, that was something that I had to act on. And I think that that's the feelings that we want to chase. Right. Like, and I think it's just really about allowing yourself to feel those things and to also be able to act on them.
Okay, so much to unpack right there, because that resonated with me. I had tears in my eyes, and those that listening, I mean, the thing is that because life for me here recently has drastically changed. I'm still holding on to what was kind of normal for me. But I don't know if I was on Love is Blind season 6 on Netflix.
Yeah.
So I've had this transition in my life, and I'm sitting here and I'm trying to figure out, okay, like what direction do I want to go? And I am still within corporate, and I'm like, okay, I'm a type of person where I always want to do everything. I want to exceed with everything and be successful in all areas. And it's hard because you find yourself like, okay, what does wake me up in the morning?
Totally.
And it's
And
crazy
here's
that
like,
that.
I don't want to interrupt you, but like, this is the thing. You're having a podcast for empowered women, right? Like empowering women that are already type A achievers. The thing about the problem that like you have, Mandy has, I have, anything you do, you're going to want to do it right, right? You're going to want to do it well. You're going to want to knock it out of the park. So it's really easy for when opportunities come your direction to embrace them because you know that not to say you know you would kill it, but you're just a hard worker and like a type A person at your core that like cares about what you're doing. And so I think that's why sometimes it kind of pushes us off track because truthfully, Brittany, any avenue that you decide that you want to go down, you're going to kill it, right? But it's just like, what is the avenue that feels good, like for me? And like, where can I like, where do I actually want to be? Because otherwise, we just live in a world where like people are gonna like. There's like one line that I read like recently that I freaking love. It's like people know your value, they just hope that you don't. People know that you're a good worker. They just hope that you don't kind of like engage in this element of like really understanding your value. And so it's just this situation where it's like in jobs and opportunities that come your way, like you're gonna crush it, but like you have to have this moment where it's just like, is this really what I want? And as someone that's like, I don't know, I'm a people pleaser. So it's really hard for me to be able to be like, no, it's not. Bye. I'm sorry. I had a mental crisis and I don't actually want to be here anymore. But like, totally get that.
It's crazy. And like here recently, I've been like, okay, what wakes me up in the morning? And for you to say that,
Mhm.
I'm like, there's my sign. And that's another thing that I think our very first episode, I was telling Mandy, like, I've had other opportunities come in my life and you never plan for them. They always come up and it's always exactly when you need it. And I'm very big on on signs and like my Christian faith of like, okay, this is where I need to be and this is what feels right. And it's crazy how the world works and all of that. So,
Okay.
yeah.
So, selfishly here, you've recently stepped into entrepreneurship, right? So, you're building this incredible brand. So, I think this is a great moment. Talk us through what you've learned so far, because you're a couple of years into it now, right? Like, you're really
Yeah.
diving
I mean, it
huge.
was October 2022. So about a year and a half.
Yeah.
I think one of the things that like, I've learned, cause it was like one of those things where like overnight, it was like, I got my LLC within like, it's 48 hours. I had launched my own classes within like 7 days. And it was, I think one of the hardest things that I've had to learn is like sometimes like, so first off, you have to slow down to speed up. There's been so many times and honestly, one of the hardest lessons that I've had to learn is like, you're gonna totally learn by like the mistakes that you make. Like you're gonna like you'll be at least for me, like I've worked with a few different people that like I think that I had to learn like the hard way, whether it was someone that was supposed to be creating a website for me and that they just didn't do anything and like I paid all this money and then I think you have to learn by this element of failure, right? Like it's a learning experience and like it changes the way that you like have conversations going forward. Like I'm never going to get burned by someone like that again, like, and unfortunately like you have to get burned like at least like one time in order for you to be able to be like, actually this isn't how this is supposed to go. I think that one of the hardest things that I've had to like kind of personally navigate with it was just like, because everything that I do is so community driven, I think I always listen to my customer, like first and foremost. Like if my clients want me, like I'm in LA, like I'm streaming a 7 a.m. Central class. It's 5 o'clock in the morning here. And like, honestly, like I think that that's one of like, that basically sums up like who I am as a business person is that sometimes I will completely negate my needs or like even the things that like I know would like, right, if I change times, I could do things a little bit better. But because I'm like, I have this core group of people that have been with me since day one, I will never want to disappoint them. And so learning to kind of I shouldn't say avoid, to be able to be okay with disappointing some people in hopes to be able to put out a better product, like that, like slow down to speed up, like that has been a really hard lesson that I think I've had to learn. And like it's never easy, but every time that I've like trusted that, like, okay, this is actually a good thing, it's turned out right. It's worked out really well and people have like received it. And so I'm lucky that way. But I think that the slow down to speed up and the half that you have to learn by mistake has been two of the hardest lessons I think I've had to learn.
Yeah, type A perfectionist humans here.
Type A and perfectionist.
Totally resonate with that. That's
for
sure
sure
for both of us.
I think it just also too, I mean, you know, I was raised by a single mom, and so I saw her do everything. And like going in, and granted, like she did in fact remarry, and like I do have a stepdad, but he ended up getting sick with MS. And so talk about, you know, your body just giving up on you. We've had to completely work through that. But going back to my mom, it's like you see her do everything like as a young girl. And, you know, honestly, I saw her do everything that a man does. And so it's like always perfection. And just she set that in me, and it's like I enjoy now being like that. But then also too, it comes with that people pleasing moment of like, okay, when is enough enough? When am I going to take myself? When am I going to put myself back at that high standard at the top to then be able to pour into everyone else? And I think, you know, even a lot of women, even if they're type A or not, we continuously feel as though we have to pour into others, but it's like, okay, wait a minute, we're forgetting who's pouring into us. And so you speaking earlier about like, you know, having someone, just one person to support you and root for you and cheer you on, like that is incredibly effective for sure.
Yeah.
Well, we need it. And like, also it's interesting you saying that about your mom, because I mean, like that's a learned behavior, right? Like I'm sure it formed, like even you as a young kid seeing your mom juggle all these things. And like, you know, like I don't think people really, I don't say give motherhood like the type of props that it deserves, but like I don't know, I see it from my clients. And my mom wasn't around when I was growing up. Like my parents had a really bad divorce, and like I didn't have like, I don't say I didn't have a strong female role model, because it was like, you know, it's messy. Like life is so messy. And I didn't have the quintessential like motherhood role to show me how things were done. And so I think that, you know, people don't really kind of, I don't say give women their flowers in the sense of like motherhood, but I've just, my experience now and seeing through my clients and just how much they handle and like navigate on a daily basis. And they just have, they're so hard on themselves. And I feel like if anything, like that's one of the things that like, I like to kind of bring them back down to freaking earth. Like you're doing a lot. Like, and I don't think, and even to your like, not to your defense, but like into what you're saying, I think that's one of the hard things about like being single and trying to find someone, right? Like it's the fact that you know that you're totally capable of being able to do all of these things. But sometimes it would just be really nice if someone was just like, you don't have to be strong all the goddamn time. Like, like I see you killing it. I love it. You're amazing. You're like pop off, but like, you could like, I got you. And like, I think that's what we like really need. And that's one of the things that's like so hard. I know, at least for me personally, single, I'm like, I don't really want you. I don't even need anything from you, but like, just like have my back a little bit.
Right. So we have this conversation all the time, like, right. As a type A driven woman, who's like a kind of, we're both a little bit of an alpha female. It's like,
sure.
I don't need you to be strong, like alpha male. But I do.
Dave, I can buy my own dinner, you know?
Buy my own dinner, but I do need you to like be there to support me and say like, if I need a break, if I say like, hey, I need to tap out right now, like you better be able to carry the same weight, and it better be seamless.
Exactly.
Like you better bring to the table what I bring, and like, and at least match that energy.
I just always have needed someone that can just be like, see me like just spiraling, right? And just be able to like, calm down, like literally chill, like take it easy.
And like so many, I think a lot of people take offense to like the term like calm down, right? And everyone's like, don't tell me to calm down. And they like cop an attitude.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, even like we've remained friends, and like we've talked about this, and he's like, okay, like we had a conversation. He's like, all right, so how can I be better like in my next relationship? And then of course I returned like the question to myself, and he's like, honestly, you just like taking a step back. And like calm down.
He was like, how do I say this without you like running down my throat right now? But like
without telling you to calm down.
And because like I am, you know, I don't want to say demanding, but my best friend explains that I demand a lot. And it's because says that because I demand a lot, I do all the things that I demand. And it's like, are these alpha females, and it's hard to silence that. And it's, you want someone to tap into that energy with you and be like, that's my baby. She's going to take care of everything. But like the second she needs me, I need to be sure to like come correct.
Totally. Yeah. Where they at? Like, honestly, like, but I think it's also, I mean, one of the things that like has really changed my life in a lot of ways is like, and I'm so open about like therapy. Like I really am. Like I'm big about like, like looking at, because I think I am the common denominator of all my problems, right? Like, so at the end of the day, like having this like sense of ownership, especially when it came to relationships, I was like, like Ash plus whatever this variable is always equaling the same thing. Like at some point, I'm like, maybe I'm the problem. And so I feel like this element of just being able to have like this like totally like painful responsibility for the role that I played in those situations, whether it was because I'm super demanding too of someone, but I'm like, why am I like this? And why is my reaction immediately to be like harsher, like to want to pull this guy out and be upset with you because you're not that person, as opposed to being like, I don't know. It's just interesting because I think relationships are always challenging in any capacity all the time, but being able to have someone that like both of you be able to step outside yourself is like such a key thing. And I think in any situation in life, you kind of have to take yourself out of the equation, which is such a hard thing to do, to look at something so objectively, your body, your freaking job, your husband, your kids, all of it. It's like, you have to take yourself outside of yourself. And I think having those step back moments, that top down process to like recollect your thoughts before immediately erupting, has been like such a huge thing that like, everyone freaking needs to like be able to tap in, especially as like a high achieving individual. And it's so important. You make more rational decisions. Like instead of us being like, okay, we just got to like, increase company, like ROI, blah, 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 blah. You're like, okay, let me take a step back and like, think about how I'm gonna do this, like really specifically and like, and calculate it. And so I don't know, it's been so much of like, I think the lessons that I've had to learn with my body have been things that I've also had to learn in so many other areas of my life. It's weird how it all connects.
I like that. Yeah. I think moving in towards, I know like one thing I value is the insight you have on fitness, how you relate to your body, all of these things. And one thing that you've very openly shared is that you've had a struggle with like your body image and struggling with that. I know that a lot of our people listening here are going to be able to relate to that. That resonates. Like you're growing up as a woman here in 2024. And like, how do you not, like, I think we all have some level of like body struggle here and body image struggle. What piece of advice, what do you talk us through how you handle that every day?
Well, I've always been super honest about like my struggles with it. Like you mentioned, like body dysmorphia, like had a really bad eating disorder, went to treatment, like all the things. And like, I think, I always say to people that like, this element of when you're in treatment, like they, talk about recovery all the time. And I think it's one of the hardest things about like the way that they talk about that is like this idea that you're just, in order to like, you're either going to be in this place where like, you're just like, you don't care about your body, but you're happy and like that's recovered and like everything is fine and you're supposed to just be okay and like self-love. And I get that. Like I totally, there's nothing wrong with it. I love people that go into that headspace, but I think this, like as like a very type A female, and as someone that lives in the world that we live in, being exposed to the media that we are, it's like there's always this element of like you care how you look. And I think for the longest time, I felt like that was a part of me. Like I was never going to be able to like, like have the body that I wanted to without really engaging in like the toxic side of things. And I think I'm really honest about that. Like, the big part of like, my journey with things is just like this idea, like the recovery of like, just one day you're going to wake up and everything is going to be different. And you're no longer going to have those thoughts and like look down at your thighs and like think anything, like you're not going to have a negative thought. It's always going to exist. I think my big thing always with anyone I'm working with is like, how do we like take the emotions out of it and just be able to make sure that like, no matter what your goal is, right? what are the systems that like need to be in place for you to be able to feel better and to get to that whatever destination outcome anyways? Like, what are the non-negotiables that we need to do in your day, irregardless of what those emotions and what your head is telling you you look like? You wake up in the morning, you're like, I ate pizza last night, I feel so like sodium bloated, oh, gross, disgusting. Like, those are emotions and your brain starts going wild. But like, I think my whole place is what are the physical actions that I need to do, irregardless of how I look, irregardless of how I feel, that are going to make me feel better and like know that I'm showing up for myself. And so I think a big part of like anyone dealing with the body dysmorphia piece of things is like, it's such a mental game that you need to just be able to step outside of it and just look at like, what are the things that I should be doing irregardless of how I look or feel today? How I, if my jeans fit me or not. Like, you should still be taking care of yourself, getting a workout in, eating like the foods that make you feel good, drinking your water, no matter if you're size 0 or 15, like you should be taking care of you, doing those things irregardless. And I think kind of being able to have this like unfiltered, cut the bullshit conversation with yourself is just super important, no matter where you're at in your fitness journey, your health journey, in every avenue of life. So I think that's like, to me, is just being able to have these like super uncomfortable, honest, like conversations with myself has been the biggest key as far as like getting through it. And also just this acceptance of the fact that like, I probably am always going to struggle with this. Like, my body has changed so much throughout the last, like, 2 years, 5 years, 10 years, high school. I'm probably always going to have some level of just these thoughts in the back of my head. And I think this idea that we're supposed to just like destroy our demons, like it's almost like delusionally optimistic. Like, you need to be so comfortable and familiar with your demons that like when they rear their head, you're like,
know what to do with
that's
them.
an irrational thought, right?
Mhm.
Like that's me, like, being crazy and like I know you, like I'm so familiar with you, but like I'm not going to engage in these self-destructive habits because like this is a demon that's like a thought that's coming up. Like, it's really about just being very, very like familiar with them.
That's actually a really good point, honestly. I've never thought about it like that. But the thing is that if you're cognitive of those demons and knowing like, okay, I know how to identify this, like I know not to tap into that, you will automatically be able to look the opposite direction. And it's funny that you say that. Literally last night I ate pizza and woke up this morning and I'm like, because sodium affects me like no other. And so I put on my
Oh
rings
my
this
goodness.
morning and I'm
The
like,
jaws of life needed to be used to pry my rings off after I had pizza. Like,
yeah, and it's like, who doesn't love leftover pizza? And I'm like, Brittany, okay, you are literally setting yourself up because your rings didn't fit this morning and you had to push them on, and here you go eating some more pizza. But it's like you're able to talk to yourself and just be aware. Like, that's so important because I too, like I used to work out 5 days a week and I love working out. Absolutely love it.
Mm-hmm.
But since moving to Charlotte and like, I get a corporate job, I'm sitting behind a desk from 7 a.m. to 5 p.m. if I'm lucky to get out that early. And I'm sitting there like, my body is just like, I'm letting myself go. Like, and it's, yes, I'm sitting behind a desk, but like, I'm like, okay, I need a treadmill, walk pad. Got that. Like, you take those things into consideration, and it's like, what can you do for yourself to like, meet those standards that you set for yourself that make you happy.
Mm-hmm. Well, it's never the physical weight of it. It's the emotional weight of the realization that like you're saying, like that you let yourself down. Like, that's what sucks. It's not the fact, like, I mean, the weight is like one thing, but it's not what we're so upset about, at least like in my experience. It's like that feeling of just being like a little bit of shame, honestly. Like, you're embarrassed. You're like, why did I do this to myself? This didn't feel good. I'm not proud of it. And then it's just like it's just this overwhelming like weight of emotions of like, I let myself down. Like, I prioritized this. And now here I am in this corporate setting without the time and the luxury to be able to take care of myself. And I don't even know where to go to begin. And so I think a big part of like me as like a fitness like person in general is like, I think I am never going to shy away from the fact that like life is going to serve you shit sandwiches. Like, it's going to, but like my whole goal with anyone I'm working with is like, do you feel like you have the tools to piece yourself back together again? Like, and that's really what I want anyone that works with me to feel. I want them to feel like, you know what, like I just had a switch in my job. I moved across the country. He broke my freaking heart. But like when the dust settles and you come to the surface, do you feel like you know like the right course of action to get back to where you want to be? And that's why I think I just am so like, I will explain things to people as like why we're doing what we're doing, because I want them to feel like it's okay. It's okay when like life gets chaotic, because the second that you're ready to begin again, like you can have peace of mind knowing that like I just got to stay consistent with this, and like my body, it's going to come back. Like I'm going to be in a better place. And like I think that just like it takes away this element of like fear, of like not really having a method to the madness. And I think that's all we really want. We want to know that like I don't have to like go and look at what Kaya Gerber, what I eat in a day videos, and then just copy and paste this in my life and then pray at the end of 6 weeks that I look like differently. Like, it's just like, to me, I'm like, I want my people to know that they're making the right steps and they're taking them to get to where they want to be. And then they will see results. And like, that to me is like it's the greatest, them feeling better.
I love that. I would love to hear. So I'm obviously very familiar with your workout style. I want to make sure our understand, like, I love it because I explain this to everybody. I'm like, listen, you're only doing 3 sets of everything. So if there's something like, if we're doing, every time you say, okay, we're going to do twisting mountain climbers, the things I say to Ashley under my breath in that moment, I'm like, I hate twisting climbers. But then I'm like, okay, you have 3 sets of this. You can do it. And also like your abs are going to be popping. So like,
by the way, Mandy looks great. Mandy looks great.
The other day I was like, Brittany, look at my ab crack. And she was like, I see it. I was like, but I can't stop. Like, I'm making everybody in my life. I'm like, look at
feel
it.
my abs, touch them.
Feel them. But talk to us about like how, one thing I really love about your workouts is I don't leave them feeling drained, right? Like, and I have autoimmune. I've got Hashimoto's. We've talked about this before. So for someone with, especially somebody with like autoimmunity and Hashimoto's, like when you're working out, doing high intensity workouts, like I put on weight and I inflame and then I'm exhausted and I just can't keep working out. So what makes your workouts so different and why are they so different?
So I like to call my workouts like lit. Like you have like a spectrum of like workouts, I'd say. Like on one side of the spectrum, you have like your yoga classes, your Pilates, your bar, which are all like really focused on like isometric training, like really focusing on specific muscle groups without like this element of getting your heart rate up and elevated. Like you'll get a little bit, but like that's one side of the spectrum. Other side of the spectrum, you have like your Barry's Boot Camp, your Orange Theory, Soul Cycle classes, which are like all really great classes that like getting you to, your heart rate goes to max, then you get like a total rest period, and then you back up again. And like those being the HIIT workouts. And so those are super, super hard on your body, especially from like a female perspective. The conversation of cortisol is like everywhere now. And I like to say that my classes are in the middle. And like, so it kind of comes in a couple different ways because like for me, first off, like I was cardio queen, like running on the treadmill, like, and I saw really the benefits from like this aerobic capacity standpoint of like, you're not doing something that's like crazy strenuous. Like you want to get this element of cardio in because like that 120 to 150 beats per minute is what's going to burn body fat. And in like the yoga Pilates classes, like I see it hurts my heart all the time. I'll see a bunch of girls going to these classes or like bar classes and they're like, okay, like they're focusing specifically on muscle groups, but like you can't spot reduce a muscle. So you need to have something element of like increasing your heart rate to be burning body fat. And then you want to have strength training, like because strength training, like as a female, as we age, we start to lose muscle like exponentially. Like you hit menopause and like muscle is like, we need it. Like it's metabolically active. It keeps you healthy. And so you need to have both. And I think from my perspective, I was like, do I do cardio today? Do I do lift? Do I do weights? Do I go to this class? And it was like too much. Like, I don't know, like even based off of my mental health, like I might come to the gym Monday and then like, I don't know, I might spiral and then not come again for a week and a half. I need to go and have a workout that's going to be like, I can't do arms on this day and then legs on this day because truthfully, I don't know if I'm going to be back here. Like literally, I'm not sure. And so I needed the workout that I'm doing to be like super effective from a full body perspective. Like I want a little snatched waist. I want my booty to feel perky. I want to like lose body fat from all over. I want to get a good sweat in it. And so like, to me, I'm like, I need to do like the way that my classes work. It's like, we're doing all of that in like either an hour, 30 minutes, however much time that you have, because I think people want to be able to do like workouts that are super effective for like their specific goals. And they want to not have to think too hard about it. And like, to me, that's really like, I want it to be a release, and I don't want to be having to think about if I did too much today, and or if I did enough today. And my like 17, 16, 18-year-old self was like in the gym for hours a day. It was like, I don't know if I'm doing enough. And I want that girl that is constantly questioning if she did enough today, if she deserves to be able to, eat the foods that she wants to. Like, I kind of speak to that girl. Like, that's what I needed. I needed something that like I knew that if I was going to come to the gym and do an hour, that like I could carry on with the rest of my day and not have to think about if I did enough today. And so that's kind of like my workouts. I really focus on like this, like I work a lot in the modeling industry and like actresses now that I'm in LA and stuff. And so my clients are like, I shouldn't say my clients, but like initially like the foundation of it was really rooted in like being camera ready. But that does not mean that you have to like be in that specific industry to see results in your body. Definitely not. But like, I think that's really where things were like rooted initially. And I've really kept true to that because, most of my clients are just looking to feel better in their body. And like, if I can do something that's really effective for them in that time frame, and then also like 2 weeks, they can look and feel completely different while I'm like talking them through this process, then I'm like super effective. And you're not like doing some other girl's app and like, she's like, okay, in 6 weeks, take your other progress pics. Like, I don't have time for that. Like, I am an Aries. I will have an entire different personality trait and like small business on the side in the 6 weeks. Like, no, I need results and I need them now.
Yes. Yes, we want them overnight. One thing Ashley does is she does challenges, which I love because it's like a 30-day challenge. And it's like, how quickly can we get results? Make it happen. Like, take this many classes. And so the last one, it just wrapped up Monday. And it was like 16 in 30 days. And it was
16 classes.
The results. And I immediately, like 2 weeks in, was like, awesome. I'm killing it. Like, I love crushing it. I'm seeing results. So I love it. There's a lot of accountability there. And I think that's really what truly makes it easy to stay engaged.
Well, it's like a balance because like, like 16 classes sounds like a lot, but I've completely changed as far as like my platform. And like, I have classes that are like 10 minutes long, 9 minutes, like you piggyback one off the other. Like, it doesn't have to be long in order to be effective. And I think my whole thing always with anyone is trying to get them into this headspace. I talk about like mindset all the time. And like more oftentimes than not, you're doing a workout, like 16 out of those 30 days, like more oftentimes than not, you're showing up for yourself in some capacity, whether it's 5 minutes, 10 minutes, or an hour, like, and that is always going to net you a positive. And I think if we can start getting more into that headspace, as opposed to this 0 or 100 mentality that us type A overachievers are like injected into my veins, like as we can start to shift that more, like you're going to break out of this perpetual cycle of like losing and gaining the same 5 and 10 pounds over and over and over again.
Yeah. Well, I want to ask you kind of like a final question, because I know that all of your clients feel empowered by you. And so what makes the Ashley empowered? Who, what, however you want to answer that, what gives you that empowerment through your day to day?
I mean, honestly, like, it's my people. Like, that sounds ridiculous to say, but like, I didn't even start this business because of like, and I'm going to get emotional, but like, it wasn't for me. Like it never was. Like, it was something that like, my life changed. Like, so I don't need to go into crazy details with it, but like everything that I knew was like different. Like, the pandemic hit and like my community needed me to like demo classes. And then like the person I was working for, business went away. And then like these people that had gotten me some through like the hardest times of my life, like they needed a place to come. And like, not only were they like my community, but they were like my friends. And like so many of my people that stream classes, like I call them my people because I genuinely feel that way. But like they make me like have the courage to keep going forward, because like it's something where like I wouldn't do it without them. I wouldn't do it for anyone. It's not about me. Like nothing that I do in my classes or like in my life, it's like, it's not about me. And so I think that I'm so lucky and blessed that like, for whatever reason, like all my people are like, like they've claimed me as their leader in some like weird way. Like we either need group therapy or like whatever, like, and I feel really lucky, and I'm so incredibly grateful for it. But like, they're the thing that keeps me going. And if I didn't have them, I wouldn't be doing what I'm doing. I wouldn't be having what I have. And I certainly wouldn't have had like, like things wouldn't improved and like grown in what they have if it wouldn't be for them. I owe them everything. And like, they're really the thing that keeps me pushing forward, because I just want to make this better for them. I want to give them more things to access. I want to empower them further. And so honestly, it's always been driven by my people since day one. And they're the thing that give me that strength to keep pushing forward. They always will. And I think that's it. Like it's literally just been about them since day one. And they make me so strong, and they make me want to show up on the days that like, I don't want to get my ass out of bed. Honestly.
Love that. That's incredible. Before we wrap here, where can people find you? We're going to put all of your socials, the handles, the website, everything in the show notes. But Instagram, is that kind of I know that's the way that you and I interact, but how do
you can shoot me a DM. Like literally it's not in my DMs. There ain't no men in there. So like all my clients hit me. So you can find me on Instagram, Ashley_Eckhoff. Or like, I mean, if you want to string, you can, again, like see my Instagram. I post a bunch on there all the time from a daily like story standpoint. I post a lot of workouts on there, but like my website, anyone can stream my classes from my website. It's ashleyeckhofffitness.com. But like, if you're, confused as to where you start, or like, I don't know, you want to talk about anything we talked about here, like literally like send me a DM. I love talking with people. I love getting to know the people that are streaming my classes, or just anyone that like wants to say hi, like say.
She's full of responses. She will respond to you.
Might be at 2 a.m, but I'm gonna respond.